Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of MTG Fun. Today I have artist. I'm going to let you pronounce the name because I don't want to butcher it. How do you pronounce your
It's
name?
called, it's Milivoj Ceran.
Ah, okay. That's
Most people call me Ceran, people in US, but it's actually Ceran. But
Chatter.
otherwise, I'm fine with it. Yeah,
So,
as long as people know what to get from me, I'm fine.
So it's pronounce your first name again.
Milivoj. Yeah,
Milivoj. Chatter.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's close to Milwaukee, something like this. Milivoj.
Milivoj. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Great.
You heard it first here, right?
Yeah.
So Milivoj, tell us a little bit about your start in art. What drove you to start into a career of illustration?
I started when I was actually, my first steps were in my high school. I was a pupil in art school for applied art and design here in Zagreb in Croatia. And I remember I started to draw some drawings in book about dogs. And it was it was a book made by a friend of my mother. And for me at that time, I was like 16 or so. It was just important to have my name, published somewhere. And then later, during academy, I realized that all the stuff I saw there, like contemporary art and modern movements, it's really not appealing to me. And that I'm more, my voice is closer to this traditional, old looking vintage, art, like, old masters or symbolism or pre-Raphaelite, whatever. And I made some steps in making contemporary art, but that was really not for me. And then finally, I found that all things that you learn from the traditional art, like proportion, composition, like shading, like lights and dark, color theory, it's all included in illustration, in a realistic illustration. So after I leave those comments like, this is all already seen in Renaissance, it's not something new, blah blah, I turned to illustration, where this is actually part of the industry. You must know how to draw and how to paint to be able to depict images from imagination. And my degree was in conservation and restoration. So I have this knowledge from old masters that was part of my studying in academy. And everything I learned, I was able to use it in illustration and not in contemporary art. And especially when I saw that my role models, masters of illustration like John Howell, Alan Lee, or Brian Froud, or Frank Frazetta, those guys were actually really, really good at this traditional stuff. And if you want to be in the same boots, you need to know how to draw and paint. And in my last year on academy, when I was almost finishing, I got my first professional assignment for a picture book, for a children's book about fairies. So at the time when I graduated, I realized that I'm not interested anymore in restoration and conservation, and that I really, really like illustration. At first years, I was working in the children's book industry, but I really wanted so bad to work in high fantasy, and I slowly started to switch from one market to this fantasy art market. So that actually led me from a children's book to small publishers, small game houses to make some TCG illustration. And later it was ended up in Paizo, in Blizzard, and Wizard of the Coast, in the big names. But that was my idea from the start. I want to make believable pictures in imaginative realism fields.
Great. So you started in high school, kind of going down the path of restoration and preservation, but then decided you liked more of the creation of the industry than the restoration. That's great. And you mentioned some of your mentors, so to speak, the people you look up to. Of those people mentioned, who do you think your style mimics best, or who do you think you take the most what's the word? Influence from? Yes.
Knowledge. Definitely one and only John Howe, definitely. Because at first I was more into inspired by Ellen Lee and Brian Froud, but later when I discovered John Howe's work, it really blew my mind. And actually I learned really a lot from John Howe about colors, about those some composition, about some effects in pictures that actually I tried to mimic it. And as it happened in life, I had to pull all my strength to finally get away from my influence. Because if you mimic just one artist, then your work start to look like copy of this artist. So after I realized I learned all I can from John Howe, then I tried to make my own voice.
Right. Yeah, and you definitely have your own voice. I own a few of your pieces from Magic the Gathering, and you were gracious enough to send me your catalog of available pieces, and I'm drooling over that right now, trying to decide which piece to select. Anyway, so I definitely can see that you've developed your own style. Did you ever have the chance to meet John Howell or any of these other influencers?
No, unfortunately not, because my first visit to US was in 2006. I attended to San Diego Comic-Con to search for jobs in the industry, and the year after, in 2007, I attended the Gen Con for the first time.
Oh yeah.
And I think John Howe said that he will be there in 2008 or something. So actually we missed for 1 year.
Bummer.
Yeah, but unfortunately I didn't meet him, but he really helped me a lot in my first years with advices. He's really generous, and actually he made forward for my Norse mythology book. So that was really a huge accomplishment that my role model, my idol in illustration, actually made forward in my own book. Dreams come true. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, so you may not have met him in person, but you've collaborated on things, including the forward for your own book, and he's taught you a lot. That's amazing. In the art world, I noticed that there's a lot of different styles. What would you say describes your style that separates you, or what do you like to focus on, or what are some of your favorite things about your illustrations that you think sets you apart from others?
Well, I think of a few elements, like maybe different storytelling, maybe different composition. But what I think it's the most is this technique, how I use acrylic or watercolors. I really like and enjoy to paint texture and structures. So a lot of splattering with toothbrush, a lot of this kind of thing that you can paint an armor. In example, you can paint an armor that's shiny, and you can paint an armor with a lot of rusted, rusted elements like some scars from battle. And I realized that everything I paint, I mean, literally everything, has some kind of structure, because I don't want to look like it's made of plastic, like it's too shiny,
Sure.
like it's too perfect. It must be with some real structure and texture from the real world. And again, I started with copying of the other masters' techniques, but at the end, the style is not something that you look for it and find. It's something that happens when you just work and work and work, and suddenly you see that the same or similar elements are different in your images and your artworks and artworks from your colleagues.
Right.
We just use the tools, the same tools, in our own way, and it's not happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes years, and it just, it just happens.
Sure. Yeah, and I notice even watching what you've done for Magic the Gathering, things have, you've progressed and things have gotten slightly different and better in some ways, like your use of color, for example, on the piece behind you, I think is amazing, just the green energy. And we can talk more about that specific piece in a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your process? Like, where do you start and how does it go from there once you get an assignment? What are the first things you do, and how does that process go?
Mm-hmm. First, I get art brief. So again, I'm illustrator. That means I'm mercenary. So yeah, I mean, you paid for it. I will paint it. And I built my portfolio for years because I wanted to be acknowledged as fantasy illustrator. So if somebody hired me, they'll know what they can get from me based on my portfolio. Right. So when I get the art brief, first and most important thing is translate to be sure that I get all the details, because I'm not the original English speaker. I'm self-taught in English, as you can hear, but
you're
sometimes
very easy to understand, so you've done a good job teaching yourself English.
I talk a lot, and I talk for years, so
that's good.
But it happens sometimes that I miss some details in descriptions, and after some not say mistakes, but some beginners' mistakes, I always have to be sure that I really get the whole picture, so that I can actually, draw. Put my imagination on start and start to visual the whole thing, because it's not just when you see Magic cards, you see the final product, but actually the real idea starts with those small roughs, basic thumbnail ideas where I just throw up in I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes basic ideas in different action, different pose of character, different the point of view, different camera angle, and then I send it to our director. Then I get feedback. They said, "Oh, we really like number 2 or number 3," or sometimes we like the combination of character in the first and the background in the what you draw in the fourth rough. So can you please combine this? Yeah. Then we already have some kind of start, Then I made detailed sketch and again sent for approval, because in business is really crucial and very important to have good communication with art directors. Right. Otherwise, they will hire you for their product and you will paint your own artwork, but it must match. Sure. Otherwise, it can be great painting, but completely missed the card or mechanics or something, or vice versa. When I made a detailed sketch, again, I send it for approval. And when the art director say, okay, it's okay to go, or adjust this part on, it's always just some details. But when I'm done, I made in Photoshop color comps, and that's basically the only part where I use the digital tools, just to be, more efficient and fast. I make 2, 3, or 4 versions, and then I send for approval. And when the art director pick up one, I download it to my iPad, and I have it here in my studio, where is my working table, as a guide. So everything else is, we set the composition, we set the characters. I shoot a lot of photo references if it's some kind of armors or drapery, clothes, or I don't know, face expressions, and yeah. I pose for this one in some kind of a sheet,
so people
or
can see it a
something
little bit
around
better.
me.
Yeah, so that's kind of what he's talking about. One thing I really liked about this piece is over on this side, you can actually see the shield come out where you've drawn it. I don't know if you think that comes through on the camera, but it's just really cool to see.
I didn't raise it. Yeah.
Oh no, it's good.
Yeah.
I like that part of it. So anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, when I have everything set and colors and everything, then I paint. And it took me usually around, I don't know, 5 days or 7 days, or in case of Cauldron Familiar, I painted in 2 days. It was just like painted.
Wow.
But that was because there was no architecture, no perspective, with a lot of this drawing, these perspective grids and everything, grid lines, and it just happens sometimes. It will take less or more, and it doesn't mean that the card will be better or not so popular. It depends on the card.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned these adjustments and these changes, I made this Ravenous Giant painting that was actually that I find out when it was already published that it was what was the name?
Similar to Juzam Jin. Yeah, where he's holding the guy up and he's like looking at him.
Yeah. And basically I got the brief when my art director said, okay, it doesn't it's similar, but it should look like the original card. But what was the best thing, she didn't give me the actual card. I didn't know what was the card. I just knew it's supposed not look like this card. And when during these steps, when I made these roughs and sketches, it was comments like, okay, this is great, but remove the ring from the nose because it is similar to this other card. I said, okay, no problem. I removed the ring.
Yeah.
And the color guide was when I made some colors. It must not be the green color on giants, something like this.
Okay.
So basically, but I still didn't know what it was all about. And the funny effect, when it was released, I heard comments like, these guys is ripping off the Jizan June. No,
oops.
I didn't know it was that card, but but it happened that my art director actually from these 4 roughs choose the composition that was actually similar to the original Juzam with the same pose and same camera, but
right. Well,
I was mercenary, I guess.
Just coincidence then, not meant to be that way.
It happens.
It's interesting.
It happens, yes.
Well, it sounds like, kind of to summarize, you get an assignment, you put together some rough sketches, submit them, the art director picks a couple elements and tells you, hey, I like this, and then comes back, and then you do some studies digitally and then come up with a final image based off a few rounds of approval. It sounds like, and the more I talk to artists, all artists during their process seem to include some form of digital art at some point through their process, just for the convenience and ease of it. Is there something you like about digital besides just the convenience of it versus traditional? Is there something you like about traditional? I mean, obviously you paint more traditionally than digitally, but is there, for you, I guess, to narrow down the question, what is it that you like versus traditional more than digital for yourself?
It was a lot of debates about traditional versus digital, but basically those are just different tools.
Sure.
You have one tool and you have the other tool, and you choose what you like the best. I tried to paint digitally, but it's really not working for me, because I was painting two illustrations for the Applebot, for this Japanese company, and I said to myself, okay, I'll try to see. Maybe it's not so bad if I try, but let me see the process. After 7 days of digital painting, so that means staring in the screen, my eyes were swollen, and I tried to get those same effects I usually have in my real brushes. I couldn't get it in digital media because I was not so good in it. And the other thing, when I turned off the computer, I felt like I didn't do anything, because the real artwork doesn't exist. It is binary code in computer. So when you turn it off, it doesn't exist. It exists as a print and as image on internet, but it's all virtual. We are talking about real world and virtual world. There are some pros and cons. You can paint fast, you can remove layers, you can recrop it, flip it, whatever you like. But at the same time, when I work traditionally, I must be more focused on my work and to avoid mistakes like if you spill water or color over your painting in 3 a.m. before the deadline, there's no undo button. But that's why you must be more focused, and it's after it is done, I have the original paintings for marketplace. And just to be honest, I didn't enter the Magic field to sell the originals, because before Magic, I was passionate the same way for the artworks that I get paid $150 or $200 and didn't sell original. But I didn't switch to digital media because I still like to paint traditionally, whether it was paid like fortune or it was paid $200. There's no difference. Good thing is for Magic, people like you, collectors who really support artists, and especially in the last 2 years, some kind of I don't know what to say, renaissance or a boom of explosion of prices.
I think that's more. I know what you're saying, and I think that's more due to the awakening of the players, finding that there are these pieces available. Like when I first started collecting 6 or 7 years ago, I had played Magic already for quite some time, and I never really even thought about originals, and I really liked art, and I loved looking at art, but then I don't remember what exactly clicked, but I found out there was a group of art collectors, and I just got really excited and started collecting. So yeah, I think it's just more, a big part of it's just the knowledge that is being spread that there are originals to this game we love, and more people are becoming awoken to that. And when you add more people to the mix, more people are going to want the same thing, and it drives prices up. So
yeah, because the same happened in comic industry, and actually in the real art market, that you have rich people who like to buy themselves presents, or items that have artifacts that have special meaning for them, or just want to have something expensive to show their wealth or something. But the good thing is that how I explained to one of my friends what is this memorabilia, and actually this love of fans, collectors in Magic. I said to him, 25 or 26 years ago, when the Magic was still a small project or pilot project that may be successful one day, it started with alpha, beta, and the other expansion sets. And at that time, those collectors were actually kids who buy cards for, I don't know, $1 or $half or dollars, or I don't know, 50 cents or 20 cents. I don't know what was the prices then. And they love that images, and this card, the game, the images actually became the part of their youth, their growing up, their childhood, their, you mentioned, their life. 25 years old later, same guys and girls, of course, same men and women, they have companies, IT companies, they have I don't know, real estates, they have money and
disposable income.
Yes, and they don't have problem to buy themselves memorabilia or something that connect them with the game they play. So if you like the card from the game, and it's not problem for you to pay, I don't know, $2 or $3 or $5 or $10,000, because you have enough to take this as a hobby. Then it's a great thing for collectors. At the same time, it's great thing for the artists, because the artists get more money, and they can make more time on their art, and we artists, we feel really special, because somebody is actually love what we are doing. It's not just okay, you have artworks and it's somewhere in some drawer in some studio. It's actually on someone's walls, framed, and when you invite your friends who also play Magic, then you have displayed on your wall your own items that are actually part of the real game that everybody is playing. And the best thing for us is when we attend these GPs and Magic Fest events. It's really fantastic to see the real feedback and hear the stories about the same artworks that we paint. It's, for me, it's a commission, it's a brief, it's a job, it's something I paint, but I put it in a drawer and go to next assignment, and I display it on the exhibition, etc. But when you go to the GP, then you have stories. Oh man, your card is, I don't know, your card with cat. I have cat, and your generous tray, it's really look like my own cat. I really appreciate that you paint this, that you create this artwork, so I can connect with this, because it really speaks to me.
Well, the funny you mentioned that is that's one reason I bought this guy.
Yeah.
Um, it's really huge, so I'm gonna try to do my best so you can see it. But I really loved the movie Labyrinth growing up. Sorry for the glare,
Mm.
but that's one reason I wanted this piece, because you see the maze and everything in it. So it's exactly like you're describing. For me, it's kind of a piece of nostalgia, a piece of the history of the game, and it provides something. When I see it, it provides emotion, and I enjoy it. So just like
Mhm.
you're saying, if we ever do meet in person in the future, I'll come up to you and be like, yeah, I really like Circuitous Route because of the maze. And you see these little guys standing in this huge environment wondering, okay, how am I going to get through there? And you got this little gargoyle in the corner. And so, yeah, there's just so many fun elements to the piece. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I get it.
and when you have the original artwork, then you can see all the details.
Right.
Because when it's shrinked to magic card, it's really too
it's
small.
tiny. Right.
And I mean, when we make cards, they must be readable on small size. So the composition, colors, everything is important. But when you actually can feel the original, then you can see all the details that are hide. And it happened with this painting artwork. I mentioned the Cauldron Familiar. Cauldron Familiar, the cat, one eye is healthy eye, and the other eye is just white. But shrinked in Magic Card, you cannot see those details.
Right.
So when people approach me to these Magic events, they say they saw the prints and, oh my God, oh, I didn't know the cat has one-eyed because it's carved from some battle, because it's ominous evil cat that's fight
keeps
a lot
coming
of fights.
back, right?
Yeah. I mean, what the saying, the devil lies in details, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're almost out of time. I try to keep these to 30 to 45 minutes, just to respect your time and the viewers' time, because we could go on for a long time. I could talk to you for hours. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about the piece behind you, and kind of give us some detail of what's going on there?
So it was what was the name? Burlfist. I still didn't.
Yeah, you don't know the name till it comes out. Yeah.
No, yeah, because it was different. The draft name was different. But it was based in Treefall. Now it's Burlfist Oak or something like this.
Yeah.
So this was a great assignment, because I got the opportunity to paint the trees and actually tree folk. And again, it's close to my roots, to traditional media, to Alan Lee, to John Howe, to all the symbolist painters that actually paint the nature. And it is magic card, but at the same time, it is some kind of mystic wood environment and mystical beings. Actually, if it's not magic, it will be Ent from J.R.R. Tolkien.
Sure.
So
yeah.
You have the tree, the walking tree, and the magic twist is that it's supposed to have some kind of glowing green magical fists. Like I will crush you down or something like this.
Right. Yeah.
And
I like the jaggedness of the branches coming off both the trees in the background and off the oak itself. It's
yeah,
really cool.
and as you can see, even if it's small, about the colors and everything, the biggest contrast and strongest colors, blackest parts are on the Treefall.
Right.
Behind him, you don't have black color, and that is this visualization. You can paint every branch, every leaf, every small detail behind this guy in the wood, and what you'll get, it will be all just chaotic.
Yeah.
And if you just use those old techniques from old masters, blur the edges or less contrast in background, so this guy can pop up.
Right.
Then you can get the image artwork that is readable in small size and as a big painting.
Yeah, it definitely draws the focus.
Yeah,
to,
since we mentioned it, I still didn't send this. It was paint in a few parts. So
yeah,
I like this one as well because it had to be some kind of mystic turtle something.
Yeah.
And what I really like in Magic and communication with art directors, they really accept artists' ideas. So I get the basic brief, and since it had to have some fantasy elements, I just draw these wisps, something like magical lights or something.
Yeah.
And when somebody asks me, what's that for? Is that some kind of symbol? It's just to make more cool and fantasy. There's no, there's
almost
no
like it's
special
flying
meaning
through the,
or, some story behind it. No, it's just turtle with this fantasy twist because it had to be different than normal turtle.
Well, it's almost like it's flying through the water rather than just swimming, right? It's like being propelled faster. It makes it feel like it's going faster. That's really cool.
And it had those spikes, so it had to be tough, nobody conquer me yet. I'm still
no one's gonna mess with him, that's for sure.
Yeah. And the great thing is Magic that whatever you got, it's always something new. And is it amulet? Is it I don't know, some creature, some giant, some demon, or you mentioned everything is unique in its own way. So it doesn't have to be always like clashing of armies or dragons. You can paint a cat, and you can enjoy the cat. So
right, yeah, that's great. Well, again, I really thank you for your time, and I'm sure the people viewing this will really thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to give us a little bit of insight into what you do on a daily basis and some of your history. So thank you again.